I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the many lands on which we meet today, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I'd also like to remind you, so this is designed to be a rather interactive webinar. So if anyone would like to be asking questions throughout the session, feel free. I'll stop what I'm doing and ask our guest those questions. If you are using a screen reader, then you'd be utilizing keystroke Alt-H to bring up the toolbar and then type in your question for me to ask. So my guest at this time, he's been part of our lives for decades, whether it be his first appearances on Good News Week or his time spent on breakfast radio with Triple J, perhaps his time hosting Sleek Geeks alongside Dr. Karl. I have with me comedian, keynote speaker, self-proclaimed maths nerd, Adam Spencer. Thank you for joining us.
And what a lovely intro, Jordan. I was proud to write that for you. And thank you for pointing out to me that I've already beaten the number of enrollments that Dr. Karl got when he did his webinar. In your face, Karl. For people listening in, they wouldn't have noticed the incredibly expert piece of hosting you did there, Jordan, because I actually hopped up from my chair and ran away just to adjust a switch on the wall for a couple of seconds when Jordan was halfway through his intro. And I heard you, mate, just slow down the pace slightly, dragging it out a little bit because you were suddenly worried you were going to have introduced me and I wouldn't be there. So you never I'm sure to the rest of the people on the webinar, they didn't even notice, but there was just a sort of 5% drop in pace for a few seconds there. And then I popped back in the screen and you finished off, mate. You're on an absolute flyer. Well done. Congratulations.
I'm learning as we go. As we go. Potentially learning from the best, eh? So I guess where we'd start is obviously you've had a huge career in media. We'll probably get to that a little bit later, but I thought I might start with the book, Maths 101. For those who haven't listened to it or purchased a copy of the book yet, what can you tell us about it?
So I've been writing popular maths books for the best part of a decade now. I started them pretty much as soon as I finished my breakfast radio stints. And the original sort of target audience was probably talented, curious high school kids who really got maths and were getting a little bit bored at the pace it was going at school. So I do stuff that would really push the mathematical content, would really push a general audience. And some of it was beautiful stuff you might not see until second or third year university, but I'd hold you by the hand and walk you through very slowly. And we fundamentally changed approach with the last book. It's more a guide for parents to teach their kids primary school mathematics. It's everything you might encounter in primary school mathematics. It goes into great detail. It's 300 pages long. There's actually a lot in primary school maths. I mean, counting and all that's pretty straightforward. But the moment you get to about year 4 and you start adding fractions together, if you haven't had a look at that for a while, that can be a little bit shaky. And so the whole idea for the book came around a few years ago when a mate of mine texted me and he said, Adam, Teddy, my son, who's 7, just asked me, Dad, why isn't 1 a prime number? And the text message continued, and this is true. I've locked myself in the bathroom and I can't stall him much longer. Can you please help? So I texted my mate back, look, this and that, this is how primes work, boom, boom, boom. And got him out of jail. But I suddenly realized that if you haven't looked at it for a while, there's a lot of stuff as early as mid-primary school that's quite challenging. And so that's where the idea for the guide came for parents for anything they might ever be confronted with by primary school age kids as far as maths goes.
And the funny thing about it is I've heard from some of our school teachers in public schools recently as well, and they were very highly commending the book. Did you seek them out when writing it?
I had one person help me who's with what's called the AMT, the Australian Mathematics Trust, and she's a syllabus master because while there is a national curriculum now, it's still a little bit stop-start across some states, and knowing exactly what year people are meant to know things by and things like that. She was really, really helpful. And then I've spoken about it at quite a few schools. I've had some pretty good feedback from teachers, yes, and mainly from the great feedback's been from parents who've had to look something up and actually, okay, now I do remember how to turn a decimal into a percentage. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I was describing before we started recording a similar sort of situation. I would say I haven't always had an affinity with maths, and I have 4 children who are 3 of which are in primary school, and I've found the book very, very helpful. I imagine your parents might well have been stumped by a couple of questions you threw their way growing up. Have you always had a love for numbers?
I've always had a love for numbers. I've always been pretty verbal too. The first real challenge I can remember with my parents like that, I can remember my dad no longer wanting to play Scrabble against me at a flatteringly young age. Put a few words into a game of Scrabble that he challenged and turned out to be wrong. And the old Scrabble set went away for a little while after that. Didn't see that out around. We became a Monopoly family after that. Yeah, that was my mum and dad were very supportive, very bright people. My mum and dad, both of them had pretty challenging upbringings in terms of their education and got nowhere near finishing year 12 through no fault of their own. And always believed in me. And the moment I showed any sort of indication that I was going in a good direction, were always incredibly supportive, which was great.
So did you get that? We have a mathematician in the family at the dinner table sort of thing?
Oh, mum and dad were pretty proud from pretty early. It's interesting, isn't it, how maths alienates people a bit like that? Because I love to say that you'll never hear anyone saying, gee, spelling. Ooh, I'm no good at spelling. Words, I don't like them. Don't do much reading myself. But it's almost a badge of honor for some people to go on about how terrible they are at mathematics. And it's such an important skill, such a beautiful world, and it's such an important skill to have that if I can help anyone overcome a few fears or concerns, I'm happy to do it.
So is there things that you've come across in your life to date that have been more mathematical than you would have expected?
Yeah, what's really interesting, I find, is how, there are some things that are obviously going to be mathematical, but the hidden mathematics in things that people might not understand, I find really interesting. And so many, so many times when you're trying to sort out a complicated situation of how to manage a family for the weekend or whatever, that's all just an information queuing problem as far as I'm concerned. And I tend to have a brain that's possibly a little bit more adept than some at just, let's just rearrange, put those pieces there. Okay, I think we found out the best way to do that. Now, the flip side of that, which isn't as great, and my wife will tell you this, is I tend to get a little bit, and when I say a little bit, I should probably say a lot, obsessive about doing things the best possible way. And so I will agonize, and I'll say to, I'm recently married. Leah and I got married only in January.
Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you very much. And I'm the sort of person who'll be saying to her, no, but look, if I take the step thought, if I drop her there, get him on the way back, do this, you go through there, come around, boom, do that, boom, drop the second car back, then I'll pick you up there, boom. I think we've probably saved about 15 minutes. And Leah will rightly point out, yeah, okay, you've saved 15 minutes from a process. You've now got 17 moving parts, any one of which could go horribly wrong at any time. So just chill out, dude, and let's just spend a few extra minutes in the car. So, it goes both ways.
I heard I'm not sure if it was a recent interview, but I told my partner about it regarding your shopping trip.
Yes.
With your new wife and how you cut time in that. And I think that's brilliant, but I think I might be one of only a few that would agree with that.
Yeah, it's not universally popular, mate. I'll be really honest with you. For people who didn't hear the interview, I'm the sort of person who will 2/3 of the way through a large grocery shop say to my partner, look, we're almost done. Yeah, you've only got a few more things to get. I'll take the trolley now and start queuing up. By the time you grab those other 5 things and join me, I should be pretty much at the front of the line and starting to pay. With any luck, halfway through, and we'll just get straight out of here. She finds that just makes the purchasing of those last 5 items on her part unnecessarily stressful, because there's suddenly a small window during which she has to get those things to me, or I'm there shouting at her down aisle 3, to hurry up with that cereal because, I've done all my stuff and people are giving me the look. So,
You're holding your spot in the line.
yeah,
Love
you
it.
have to be. You have, sometimes I'm willing.
So,
I have to accept
Adam,
sometimes
I need
perfect
to ask. So
efficiency.
you've had a bit of a rather varied career.
Yes. Have I frozen up? Oh,
I've frozen up a little bit, I think.
have you? I can still hear you.
You can still hear me.
I
Okay.
can.
We've got a bit of freezing up going on. So it might be a combination of both of us. I think that's probably the nicest way to put that as the host, isn't it?
Can anyone type in the chat? Are they still hearing myself and or Jordan clearly? I can hear you both, says someone.
Okay. Good.
Yes,
all right.
both. We're all good, mate. Keep going.
We're all good. We'll carry on. So what I was going to say, so you've obviously done a lot to talk about maths and as you describe it, the beautiful language of maths. For those who haven't had an affinity with numbers, what's some of the things that you would say most sort of attracted you to numbers?
Early on, it was just fun, and I was good at it. And yes, a kid asked me recently at a school visit, what's the secret to loving mathematics? And I said, well, one thing is that, it's really hard to hate a subject you're getting 95% in. And it's hard to love something you're barely getting 60% in. So being good at maths and loving it tends to go hand in hand early on. That sort of success cycle is just fun in and of itself. But once I got a bit older and I just started to see how incredibly this, in theory, this theoretical construct of mathematics maps so incredibly to the world that we live in. And I've said before, Jordan, I think that, the essence of being human, what separates us from, like, dogs are amazing, don't get me wrong, right? And trees are incredible. But the thing that gets us above and beyond that is we've got enough sort of mush up in our skulls that we can experience the world and think, wow, what's going on? And an attempt to actually understand how the world works is it defines our humanity. And of all the different skills we've got with which we might want to look at the world, examine the world, measure the world, describe the world, predict what's going on, art is incredible, poetry is amazing, all that sort of stuff. But mathematics is far and away the best of those. There's one little mathematical quantity in the world of quantum mechanics called the electron moment. And I won't go into what it is, but it measures the amount of charge in an electron and how that changes under certain circumstances. And when we, sit down with a pen and paper and try and work out in theory what that should be, and we come up with a number, and then we build a machine that measures that thing and it comes up with another number. And those numbers correspond to 15 decimal places. Now, what that means is that's like me trying to get you to guess how far it is to do a lap around the earth, and you're out by less than a millimeter. That's unbelievable that mathematics can so accurately map our world and explain an aspect of our world to us. So I just find that beautiful. And the vast bulk of scenarios that humans will encounter or want to solve, or whatever you want to say, mathematics is probably the best device we've got.
Yeah, definitely. It's impossible to argue with 1 millimeter from
amazing, isn't it?
That's very incredible. It is. probably the next question. So you obviously went into university. I would say your teachers most predominantly would have loved you, I'd imagine, going through primary school.
Bit of each.
A bit of each.
Yeah.
Okay. I used to get the, you're not paying. Jordan's very good at. Jordan's very creative. I used to get that one on the report card quite a lot, especially when he applies himself. There's a little underliner. So you went into university. Was media the career that you were looking to get into, or was it just something that
no, not in the
you
slightest.
found that you were good at?
Yeah, not in the slightest. I went to uni initially starting an arts law degree. Mathematics was just one of my arts subjects. And then I realized I didn't have a connection, didn't really want to do law, dropped out of that. So I kept doing maths and was pottering along through that. And I won a stand-up comedy competition hosted by Triple J. Around the time I realized my PhD wasn't really going in the direction I wanted it to. I hadn't done the right subjects on my way up, and was probably as a university level mathematician, I was probably better at getting really amazing marks without understanding deeply the subjects, rather than really deeply understanding the subjects at a level that's needed for PhD sort of stuff. So they said, do you want to come and do some work at Triple J? And it was just, it was a logical thing to do at the time, given the lack of other options I had. I'd sort of looked at that sort of stuff and I was pretty good at talking. I was in the university debating teams and went off to things like world championships and things like that. So I was obviously pretty cluey at that part. So I'd always looked at that sort of stuff and thought if I'd ever been in a position, I probably could have done it, but I'd never held an ambition or a desire to get involved in something like that. But as soon as I did, it all sort of clicked pretty quickly.
So yeah, we sort of touched on that. You started on radio and then made your way onto television. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah, I started a few sort of overnight shifts on Triple J and things like that. And there was a TV show called Good News Week, which was sort of like the closest thing you have these days is probably have you been paying attention. But we were split into two teams of three as opposed to just a panel all faffing away. And they invited me to be on some shows of that fairly early on in their series. And that was the first sort of TV I'd done. And it all went from there. And that was a really fun, that was sort of, if I had to guess a year, I'd say 1997 sort of thing. And really fun show hosted by Paul McDermott. Mikey Robbins was on it. And it just hit a vibe. It was on Channel 10 and just connected with an audience where there wasn't much of that sort of comedy variety around at the time. It was sort of, hey, it's Saturday. And with the greatest respect to hey, not much that was any sort of edgier than that. Yeah. And so we sort of, slid into that little gap and had a writer's time for quite a few years. That's where I first met Will Anderson, who I ended up doing Breakfast on Triple J with, and all sorts of fun and crazy stuff.
So I have a question from Kathy here, who's asked the question regarding, do you still run? I believe there might be some insider knowledge associated with that one.
Yeah, look, I used to jog around a little bit. I'll be honest with you. It's the beginning of dry July, thankfully. So by the end of this month, Kathy, I'll probably be in more of a condition to run a bit than I am right now. I got married in January, and my amazing wife and I decided a couple of months ago, look, the honeymoon really is over. Probably do need to start cleaning up our habits a little bit. And I'm yet to jump onto that bus as firmly as I could. So you might not catch me out jogging, Kathy, for a few weeks yet, but hopefully leading into this summer. I live not far from a beautiful beach on the Central Coast, so I do like getting down. I mean, and when I jog, I look like an 84-year-old man who could drop dead at any step. But I can shuffle on for 10Ks, and it's probably good for me.
I find I have a very unnatural running style because I'm the perfect combination of tall and unfit.
Great.
So yeah, it's and I've got short legs as well, which doesn't add to the doesn't add to the mix all that well either. So
You've got that
I
sort of asthmatic giraffe thing going on.
I'm heckle worthy. A lot of
Nice.
people out the windows would just be like, "Yeah, this guy. If you're going to pick somebody to heckle, that's the guy."
Yeah, well, just bear in mind, mate, if they're heckling you out of the window, that means they're driving. So
Well, that's true, but I wasn't going to catch them even if they were running. So,
what right do they have to heckle anyone? Good on you, mate.
so I guess we've got to the halfway point of the webinar. Once again, a reminder: if there are people that are looking to ask questions, feel free to use Alt H to use the screen reader keystroke in order to ask questions. If you are using a screen reader, I'd love to get your questions through. If you have any burning at this particular point in time, I remember you getting asked a question. I think it might have been on Sleek Geeks, Adam, about the term infinity in mathematics.
Mm.
Do you want to give us an example? Well, do you want to give us that answer? That was pretty. It's pretty
So infinity is
incredible.
gorgeous concept. A lot of people have trouble wrapping their head around infinity. I go into this in my book, Maths 101. And the big mistake that people make in trying to understand infinity is they think of infinity as though it's a number, like a really, really, really big number, but a number. And infinity is not a number. Infinity is a measurement much more similar to the word, say, many. Many doesn't have a precise number on it, but if there are many people at the football and another 10 turn up, you don't say there's many plus 10, right?
Yeah.
Infinity is a measure, and it means so large, it can't be described by a finite number. So when you count, how many counting numbers are there? They're infinite, not because there's a massive number of them, but there is no number that can contain how many counting numbers there are. Any number you give me, I could count up to that number and one more. There's more counting numbers than the number you gave me. So it's an infinite size. But what's really cute and messes with some people's heads a little bit is this. So let's say, Jordan, we're going to do a little experiment here, okay?
Go easy on me. But yeah.
Oh, no, you're going to be all right here, buddy. You've got a table in front of you.
Yes.
And you've got some cards. You've got the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yes.
Okay. I've got the numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Yes.
Who's got the most cards on their table?
I would say me.
I love the way that you're a bit nervous about that because you think you are absolutely correct, Jordan. You've got the most cards. You've got 10. I've got 5. You've got all 5 of mine and you've got some more, yeah? You've clearly got the most. Great. You've got the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, up to 100.
Yes.
I've got cards with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, all the even numbers up to 100. Who has the most cards on their table, Jordan?
I'd still say me.
You'd still be correct. You're still not as confident as I like you to be with that answer, Jordan. So you've got all my cards again, haven't you? And clearly got some extra cards. You've got the most.
Yeah.
Good on you. Now you've got cards number 1 to 1,000,000.
Yes.
I've got cards 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, all the even numbers up to 1,000,000. Who's got the most cards on their table, Jordan?
Still me.
Yeah, now listen to you coming in nice and confident. Good.
Yes.
Jordan, you have a very big table now because it has all the counting numbers on it.
Yes.
I have cards 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 going on all the even numbers.
Yes.
The infinity of even numbers. Who has the most cards on their table, Jordan?
Wait, you used the word infinity numbers there. That's confused me a little bit. That's worried me.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to say me, but the fact that you used infinity, I would say potentially you.
You've got all of my cards, haven't you?
Yes.
And you've got some extras.
Yes.
So there's no way I could have more than you.
Okay.
But do you have more than me?
No.
Correct, Jordan. And here's how we see it. Flip over one of your cards. What card number did you flip over?
20.
Okay, I'll show you card number 40. Flip over another card for me, Jordan. What does it say?
50.
I'll show you card number 100. Flip over another card, Jordan. What does it say?
101.
I'll show you card 202. What am I doing every time, Jordan? Every time you flip a card, what am I doing?
You're putting a higher number on the table.
I'm doubling it.
Yeah.
Okay, 101, I gave you 102. 20, I gave you 40. 50, I gave you 100.
Yeah.
Every time you flip over a card, can I provide a card that is the double?
Yes.
Good. That works for every one of your cards, yeah?
Yes.
And for every card on my table, is there one and only one card on your table it will match up with? I've got all the even numbers.
Got all the, well, if you got all the even numbers, then there'd be odd numbers on my table that you wouldn't have, correct?
Yeah, but when you say 3, I've got 6. 6 will match with 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Every one of my cards matches 1-on-1 to every one of your cards.
Yes.
You write them down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I write them down 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and we could dot them together.
Yeah.
So the infinity of counting numbers,
yes,
and the infinity of even numbers are the same size of infinity.
Yes.
But, and I won't go into it here because it will make people's heads explode, some infinities are bigger than others. That's the really beautiful thing.
Wow. Okay.
Probably won't get to that, yes. Yeah.
Got a question here.
From Christopher. Great question.
Yeah. So
why do kids no longer know the times tables and alphabet to the degree he did at CBC College? The numbers knowledge to raise the higher levels of so many today has become confused. Yes. Love it, Chris. Love it indeed. So there's this real debate in mathematics education about whether rote learning and things like that is a good thing or not. What do you think, Jordan? You've got primary school age kids, bit of rote learning, just slamming the times tables into them and just off by heart?
Well,
what do you think?
When I was growing up, I tended to sort of glaze over times tables until I had to learn them, because I fell behind because they were what I would call, they weren't taught to me in an exciting fashion, put it that way. Whereas my kids have actually picked up add and subtract a lot quicker than I have. So
yeah, great. Look, the explanation I give around rote learning is this. You don't wake up every morning, look at your shoes and think, there has got to be a logical way to attach them to my feet. Give me half an hour, I'm going to work this out. There are some things that are so basic, you do them all the time, you do commit them to memory to allow you to then go and do creative things with those shoes on, like go and do a job or go for a jog or whatever. It's the same with rote learning. There are the absolute fundamental basics of multiplying any two single-digit numbers together or adding any single-digit numbers. I can see in my mind why 8 plus 7 is 15, but I just know it. It just comes automatically to me. Now, if I want to work out why 8 7s are 56, I can easily draw a rectangle of 7 dots by 8 dots and count them all out. Or I can start in 8 and count 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56. I can do that. I don't want to do that every time I want to work out 8 7s because I'll do that so often in my mathematical life. So I commit those very basic things to memory. But apart from that, apart from the incredible basics, I think everything else in mathematics should be understood. So when you come to studying area and you've got to work out the area of a triangle and it's half the base times the height, you shouldn't just commit that to memory. You should be able to draw a triangle, put it inside a larger square and say, yeah, it's clearly half the area of the rectangle that it's in. Great. But if when you go to do an area question, you get everything right down to the last line, blah, blah equals 8 times 7 equals 42 because you can't remember, and you get a big red cross through it, that really turns kids off mathematics. And in fact, they understood area. They understood the concept beautifully. They remembered the formula. They wrote the formula down. They just didn't know. So you've got to have those real basics of rote learning, Christopher Tuck. I agree with you entirely, mate. That familiarity with spelling of basic words and with mathematical basics, I think should be drilled into people to the point where the creativity can then sit, can dance on top.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations too where you have, I remember growing up as well, there were some people that could add and subtract and always provide the right answer, but then would struggle to provide the work on how they actually came to that answer. Is that something that you've had to come across as well?
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. And I think in terms of basic numeracy, I think everyone, like to multiply two-digit numbers together in your head to work out 37 lots of 22 or something, right?
Yeah.
You're only doing a series of single-digit multiplications there. but you've got to be able to park a number in your head, sort of picture it on a whiteboard, leave it off to the side, come back to it a little bit later. So 37 lots of 22. Well, two 37s are 74. So I've got 74 there. Then I'm coming across to the 10. So I write a 0 and a 74 next to it. So 740. My original number was 74. So now I'm picturing 74 above 740. Well, down the first column, I've got a 4. Down the second column, 7 plus 4 is a 1, 14. Got 1 left over, 8. So must be 814. Now, I haven't done anything difficult there at all. Every individual step there was really easy. But the memory I needed to be able to hold 2 or 3 concepts in my head, or take one, park it for a while, and bring it back accurately 30 seconds later, is a really important skill. And I'd love to see more mathematical basics taught like that.
Yes, I agree. So I guess we'll bring it forward to 2008. You teamed up with Dr. Carl, and you were working on Sleek Geeks with him. Some hilarious and incredible things that you demonstrated on that particular show. Did you have any of those moments that surprised even you?
That was when you say Dr. Carl, that's the guy who had less people on his webinar with Vision Australia than me, yeah?
You're underling now. So one springs to mind. I saw a demonstration where you were testing the strength of an egg.
Yes.
And I, just like you basically did to me a second ago, you were tentatively stepping onto a board with 4 eggs on either side, thinking they're going to go.
Yep.
There was no reason in my mind that I had to believe that you thought anything otherwise. However,
yep. There were 2 experiments we did, and the egg one was probably the thing that blew my mind most. So eggs are incredible. Take an egg. Try this at home. Tap an egg on the side of a pan, it will crack and you can fry yourself an egg. But if you take an egg and just try and apply pressure on it with your hand, uniformly across the egg, and try and crush the egg in your hand, it's remarkably hard to do. In fact, you probably can't do it. Now, if you've got a wedding ring on, and as you squeeze, the wedding ring hits a part of the egg where no other contact is around it, and that's a point of real pressure, the egg will break. Because eggs need to be 2 things. They need to be really strong so that if they roll out of a nest or anything like that, they don't damage the chick inside. But the chicks need to be able to get out, and they do that with a beak, which is just a single sharp point of pressure. So the egg at the one time can withstand a fairly strong, uniform shock to it. It's a fairly structurally stable thing. But if you hit it at a single point, it'll snap and the bird can come out. So the way we proved how strong eggs are is, we created this tray with 4 corners with little sort of egg cup shaped holes in each corner. We put 4 eggs in there, put another panel on top, and I lowered myself really gently so that I hit sort of all 4 eggs at the same time on top rather than wobbling side to side. Let go of the device I was holding on, and my 70 kilos at the time, I was light then, was on top of the 4 eggs. And then they started giving me weights to hold. And we got up to like 120 kilos or something before the eggs gave out. And they actually gave out because a guy running out with the weights was so excited, he started to send little tremors through the floor and it started to shake a bit and it gave out. I probably could have taken more. So those eggs were each taking 30 kilos of force each on top of them, but it was spread out over a bit of the surface area of the egg. That was incredible. Like, we knew in theory that was meant to happen, but whenever you do an experiment like that, it's one thing knowing that if you do it perfectly, this is what's meant to happen. But for it to actually work out was just, because you only really get one shot. You can't really go back and, no, let's try that again and again and again and again. Oh, we finally got it. You've got to really get that to work first time to impress a live audience. And it was great.
Incredible. I looked at it and I thought he thinks he's going through this just watching it. Now you're a lifetime ambassador for the Swans as well, aren't you? Not exactly. You could say it's media related, but mathematics. What can you tell us about the game of AFL and mathematics, and whether there's any correlation at all?
Well, kids in Victoria are a lot better at their 6 times tables than kids in Sydney. Because I immediately know if you kick 7 goals, 5, well, 7 sixes are 42 plus 5 is 47. Bang. NRL kids are better at multiples of 4 for tries and things like that. No, it's a beautiful game. The thing I love about AFL, if you've only ever watched AFL on TV, I can understand why it's tough to get an appreciation of the full event. If you wanted to invent a game for TV, you'd invent rugby league because it's incredibly athletic and tough, but it's very one-dimensional. It's just 2 rows of people essentially running into each other and trying to go sort of 2-dimensional in that sense, I guess. But in AFL, at any moment in a game of AFL, the ball can go anywhere from 30 centimetres to 60 metres, anywhere in a full 360-degree arc. And you're watching a game, and it's only when you look down and realise, hold it, everyone's really excited because we've got an extra man over there. So if this guy can kick it to that guy, well, because that guy over there just slipped over, we can get it to him. We're a real chance at a goal here. That's really hard to translate to television. So for anyone who has a negative opinion on AFL, one, I don't really care. I feel a bit sorry for you. But 2, turn up and watch a game live. Go to the SCG and watch the Swans go around in front of a full house and win a game. Then if you tell me you really don't get it, I'm cool with that. It's got to be seen under ideal conditions, and the ideal conditions for AFL is live.
Yeah, and the atmosphere at a live game as well is very good as well.
Oh yeah, it's cooking.
So can you tell us a little bit about your I would say, because you did do some searching for this as well, the search for the largest prime number.
Yeah. So this is a real nerdy obsession of mine. I love well, let's go back a step because we probably freaked a few people out there, mate. But the primes, right? Prime numbers. So prime numbers are numbers. 6 is not prime because it's 2 times 3. 7 is prime because it's 1 times 7 and you can't write it as anything else. That's it. What a prime number is.
Yeah.
And prime numbers fascinated mathematicians for a long time because they have some really beautiful qualities. Now, a very intelligent dude a long time ago proved that the primes go on forever. There is no final prime number. The proof of it's quite beautiful. So then follows, at any given time, there must be a largest prime number that I know about, that we all know about. And it turns out that those prime numbers are fantastically, stupendously large. The largest prime number we know about at the moment, if it was written out in full, if you think about the Harry Potter series of books, imagine double the length of the entire Harry Potter series. If you typed out this single number as a as a book, as a novel, that's the length that it would run, which is truly stunning. The fact that we've managed to find a number that big and we know it's prime, as certainly as we know 1 times 7 is prime, fills me with a tremendous excitement.
And I imagine as well, computers has probably played a rather large part in extending it. Who currently discovered the largest prime number?
Very wise, very perceptive of you, sir. Absolutely correct.
I've been known to have my moments.
It is the largest prime at the moment, which is almost 25 million digits long, was discovered by a team of mathematicians, the head one of which was a Frenchman, about 4 or 5 years. It's been a while, about 5 years ago now. So we're getting a little bit itchy and thinking we should be a bit. They tend to come up every 3, 4, 5 years. So it's been a little while between drinks. So the international prime hunting community, Jordan, is on tenterhooks waiting for us to find the next absolute monster out there. Could be
Are you
30,
searching as we
35
speak?
million digits long. Who knows?
Yeah. Have you started searching yourself, or are you leaving it to others?
No, I tend to leave it to the experts these days. The French mathematicians with their gigantic computer servers and racks and all that sort of stuff.
So once again, just reminding people, feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. You can use the keystroke Alt H for a screen reader if you want to ask a question. We've got about 15 minutes before wrap up, so get your questions in now. Otherwise, you probably might not get the opportunity. So, Adam, my next question probably goes along the lines of, you've worked in TV, you've worked in radio, you've worked in keynote speaking. You've met a lot of people, done a lot of things. Have you had a pinch me moment as yet? This moment where you kind of sit there and you go, wow, that's actually happening. Don't say beating Dr. Carl. I mean, that's been done.
I've done that too many times to count, mate. I've been lucky. I've had quite a few. I mean, it depends who I'm trying to impress. When I'm trying to impress, as I said, recently married, my daughter's kids. So I've now got a 14-year-old stepson. Never had a son before.
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to impress him and his mates, it's either a bit of, it depends if they've just watched, grown-ups too. I'll point out, I've met Adam Sandler. That gets them excited. Met The Rock. I recently tweeted my mate Will Anderson at his birthday, and I tweeted a picture of Will and me and The Rock from something years ago and cracked some silly joke. And The Rock retweeted it and wished Will a happy birthday. Now, when I was showing that I'd been retweeted by The Rock to
That's
certain
cool.
people in the the teenage community, fair to say my stocks rose pretty rapidly that day in trading, if you know what I'm talking about. But I'm probably the most surreal moment. A few years ago, one of the big four banks brought Garry Kasparov, the world's greatest ever chess player, to Australia to talk about artificial intelligence and machines and humans. He was the first world chess champion to be defeated by a computer. And he gave this, he sat down and I interviewed him. And after he'd finished, we set up some chess boards and he played a group of us simultaneously, 6 of us at the same time. So I got to play chess against the greatest chess player of all time. Now, the result of the game, Jordan, is not the important part of this story.
Of course not.
But just to realize I was playing chess against Garry Kasparov was something so crazy it wasn't even a childhood ambition, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So I've got another question here.
What have we got there? The KISS test.
KISS test. When it comes to parrot fashion, it is embedded into one's mind for life. Try getting change at a shop. So many kids have to use a cell to do a simple sum.
Yep.
The laws of maths and algebra starts at the base being times tables.
Yeah,
If
it's
so simple,
yep.
Why can't the education experts understand?
Yep. This is Chris again. Chris is on his high horse and he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. I'll tell you something really cute. A little bit of trivia. You'll like this, Chris, that I reminded myself of just today. I was looking through an old file of stuff. They did a sample back when we used to go into shops and pay with money, and they did a sample across cash register transactions at a large British store for some period of time, thousands and thousands of transactions. And they found out the average number of coins given out when change is given to people was 4.61 coins, right? all the different types of change people might need, different amounts. 4.61 was the average. And the mathematicians worked out if they introduced a coin, so they've got a £1 coin and a 50p coin and a 20. They introduced a coin that was £1.75. You'd reduce that 4.71 in change to 2.6 would be the average. So many more combinations of change would come out quickly. If you had to give someone £1.85, £1.85, let's say $1.85, rather than going $1, 20, 20, 20, 25, or $1, 50, 25, you go 175 and a 10, bang. Right? Now, but as to whether that would make the process quicker or not, unlikely, because the person at the register would then need to be able to factor $1.75 or 1.75 into calculations that are currently fairly straightforward. So you get this beautiful example of a system that would become more efficient, but probably slow down as a result. I like that.
So what I would probably like to, obviously we're getting to the point where we're starting to wrap up, guys. So any last questions, get them in now. Just in regards to money in particular, you have an interest in numbers. Does having a knowledge of numbers make you better with money, or is that just an assumption on my part?
It's a really good question, Jordan, actually. And most of the time when someone says that's a really good question, they're either stalling for time to answer the question or they're just buttering up the interviewer. But that's actually a really good question. And there's no guaranteed correlation at all between numeracy and financial literacy. It probably goes the other way a little bit more. If you're financially literate, no, actually, I know some people who are brilliant business people who aren't that good at percentages and things like that. And my financial literacy and my financial skills are a lame shadow of my mathematical or numerical skills. I've made some terrible investment decisions in my life. I've done things where you look back and go, you're clearly just not following the really basic advice people are given on this sort of stuff, mate. You've got a little bit greedy or thought you're a bit smarter than everyone else in the room. So if you're blessed with a little bit of mathematical talent, it's a really dangerous game to then just say, oh, look, I'll look after all my finances and that sort of stuff. No guarantee at all that you're going to be naturally good at that sort of stuff just because you're good at adding things up. The other one that people say is with mathematics and music. So they've heard this, that mathematics is, music is very mathematical. And and so, I mean, I'm lucky, Jordan. I have the voice of an angel when I sing, but
of course,
in terms of musicology, understanding if that's a note, then that's a seventh, and you can compose and structure things. There might be a bit of an overlap and an empowering between maths and musical ability in that sense. But I taught myself to play the guitar a few years ago, and there's no logical reason when you look at a guitar why that is a C and why that's G. And to get from C to G, you just have to go from C to G and back tens of thousands of times. No amount of being good at your times tables or understanding three-dimensional hypermanifolds or anything is going to help you play the guitar. That's pure muscle memory. And I know some brilliant guitarists who would struggle with a year 7 maths exam. So I don't think there's much. It's a really simplistic connection that people make sometimes. I don't see it borne out often at all.
Yeah, and I've had that connection as well between mathematics and certain sports as well, like golf as well.
Yeah.
Just being able to angle the club in a mathematical way.
Absolute rubbish. And I know I've played enough golf, mate, to know that is just not in any way the case. No, let's please don't get started on golf.
Have you come across something that was strangely mathematical that you never thought would be? Like being a comedian, is there sort of
absolutely
correlation to that?
Yeah, there's mathematical structures in comedy all the way through. I'll give you the two I talk about most commonly are this. The comedy of threes. They'll say, and those old, an Irishman, a Scotsman, and an American walk into a bar. It's always three people who walk into a bar. The first person does something. The second person does the same, establishing an assumption in your mind that that's the only thing you'd reasonably do in the bar, so that the third person doing something different, it's only that you've heard those first two that makes the third one funny. If I just said an American walks into the bar and an Irishman walks in and does something different, you'd go, yeah, okay, well, they're two people. It would not have anywhere near the comedic impact. If I said an American walks into a bar and blah, 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 an Irishman walks into the bar, blah, 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 a Scotsman walks into the bar, blah, 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 a Greek walks into the bar, and they all do the same thing. After about the seventh one, you're going, dude, what, please. 3 is the perfect number for that structure. But it does remind me of my favorite joke.
Thanks.
My favorite walks into a bar joke, okay?
Yeah.
An infinite number of mathematicians walk into a bar. The first one says, I'll have a beer. The second one says, I'll have half a beer, please. The third one says, I'll have a quarter of a beer, please. The fourth one says, I'll have an eighth of a beer, please. The fifth one is about to order a 16th of a beer when the barman goes, oh, fucking, and just pours 2 beers. Bang! Bang! Infinite series. You get 1 plus up. Oh! Ooh, ooh. Come on. You didn't hear that from Carl, did you?
No, didn't hear that from Carl.
None of that. Yeah.
So, next question, Adam Spencer, what can we expect from you in the next 12 months?
That's a good question.
Which one is it? Buttering me up, or looking for an answer?
No. I hope you see. I hope Kate sees me out running. Because I need to do a little bit of that. I will tell you one thing. SBS had a series called Letters and Numbers, and they had a celebrity letters and numbers. And I didn't get cast in that, and I was a little bit upset. My people have made it known to their people that I am raring to go if they do another series of celebrity letters and numbers. So hopefully in the next 12 months, you will see me on celebrity letters and numbers.
We'll have to bookmark that. We've got another. So Chris has commented here again.
He's back in about the coins. Chris, Good. He won't let go. He's like a dog with a bone. I love it.
So regarding coins, spent 40 years at a WOW service operator is told by the computer what coins to give the customer. Brain fodder, it's not encouraged in our world. It's funny, Chris is talking about that. So most people coming out of school, the first thing that they had to learn to use was one of those automated cash registers.
Yep.
And I actually found using the computer system a lot more challenging than just counting on my hands and feet, to be honest with you.
Yep.
It's actually, how do I put it? It's actually harder. Well, I found it quite harder to use that than to actually just count the coins.
Yeah, I've got a mate who likes to mess around with people a little bit, and he what he'll do, he'll go into a shop and it'll come to say $5.40, and I'll just say something came to $6.40, right?
Yeah.
And you've got a $10 note. You might give them an extra 40 cents to round it up to make it easier, right?
Yeah.
So if something comes to say $6.70, he'll give him a $10 note, and he'll go, "Oh, just wait a second." Then he'll just give him 35 cents, or something that in no way makes it easier, just to watch the poor person on the other side go, "Well, this you would only have done that if that helps, but I just can't. I can't see how that."
They might be encouraged these days to go, "Oh, sorry, we're card only."
I love it. Good on him.
So yeah, I think look, long story short, Maths 101, fantastic book. If you're looking to teach your kids as well, grab that book. Definitely a fantastic resource to have. As I said, got quite a few teachers that have told me the same thing.
Brilliant, mate.
So Adam Spencer, thank you so much for joining us. It's been incredible.
Oh, mate, an absolute pleasure, Jordan. And can I just say to everyone, thank you, everyone who's joined in online. But to everyone at Vision Australia, what a fantastic Australian institution, mate. And I'm sure you enjoy working, you're proud to work there, but you guys do incredible things for all Australians, and in particular those who live with less than perfect vision. So, mate, keep up the great work. You can be very, very happy with what you guys have achieved and will continue to achieve.
Thank you very much. And all the best for the future. We hope to see you on Celebrities with Numbers.
Yes, letters and numbers, mate.
Letters
exactly.
and numbers.
Yep. To all the people in attendance, Christopher, Coral, David, Elizabeth, Eunice, George, Gwen, gosh, on the start of this, I'm going to Janita, Jay, Jeanette, Jennifer, Julianne, Kathy, Kim, Margaret, Meg, Marilla, Pamela, Harry, Roger, Ronald, Rowan, Shirley, Stanley, and Thelma. It's been a pleasure.
Vision Australia.
Blindness,
low vision,
Opportunity.
Vision Australia logo. 3 navy blue ovals linked together diagonally within a bright yellow rectangle.